In the words of William Gaddis, power doesn't corrupt people, people corrupt power. On a sunny afternoon in Springfield, Massachusetts, 15-year-old Marcus Johnson walked home from basketball practice, just like he had done countless times before. But this day would be different. This day would expose a truth about power, prejudice, and justice that would shake an entire community to its core. Marcus was a sophomore at Springfield High, captain of the junior varsity basketball team, and the son of Police Chief Robert Johnson, though few at school knew about his father's position. Marcus preferred it that way. He wanted to be known for his own achievements, not his father's badge. That spring afternoon, as Marcus walked along Maple Street, Officer James Sullivan was beginning his patrol. In his 6 years on the force, Sullivan had developed what he called instincts about suspicious behavior. But what he saw as instinct, others would soon recognize as something far more troubling. Marcus had his headphones on, listening to his pre-game playlist, completely unaware of what was about to unfold. He adjusted his basketball duffel bag, checking his phone to see if his dad had texted about dinner plans. That's when Officer Sullivan's patrol car pulled up beside him. What happened in the next 4 minutes would spark outrage, expose deep-rooted biases, and force an entire police department to confront uncomfortable truths about power and privilege. But this isn't just another story about police misconduct. This is a story about what happens when those who abuse their authority discover that their actions have consequences they never saw coming. Officer Sullivan claimed he was responding to a report of suspicious activity in the area, but department records would later reveal no such report existed. As he approached Marcus, his body camera captured every moment of what happened next. "Hey you, stop right there." Sullivan's voice rang out across the quiet street. Marcus, still listening to his music, didn't hear the command. This simple fact, that a teenager couldn't hear through his headphones, would later be twisted into something far more sinister in Officer Sullivan's report. What happened next took less than 30 seconds. Sullivan, interpreting Marcus's continued walking as defiance, quickened his pace. He reached for his pepper spray, not his radio, not his voice, but his pepper spray, making a choice that would ultimately end his career. As Marcus finally sensed someone behind him and began to turn, Sullivan had already made his decision. The pepper spray was out, and without warning, without cause, and without knowing he was assaulting the police chief's son, Officer Sullivan crossed a line from which there would be no return. The effects of pepper spray were immediate. Marcus dropped to his knees, his basketball falling from his shoulder, rolling across the sidewalk. Neighbors, hearing his cries of pain, emerged from their homes, phones already recording. What happened next would later be described by witnesses as a masterclass in composure. Through burning eyes and gasping breaths, Marcus managed to do something remarkable. He remained calm. "Sir," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the pain, "my father is Police Chief Johnson. I'd like you to call him right now." Those 11 words changed everything. Officer Sullivan's body camera captured the subtle shift in his stance. The moment realization crashed over him like a wave. Chief Robert Johnson was reviewing departmental budget reports when the call came in. Those who were present in his office that day describe a transformation they had never seen before. A father's pain wrestling with a police chief's responsibility. But Chief Johnson did something unexpected. Instead of rushing to the scene, he made 2 calculated phone calls, one to Internal Affairs and another to the city's Civilian Oversight Committee. He knew that what happened to his son happened to other young black men every day. The difference was, this time there would be no avoiding the consequences. The investigation revealed a pattern in Officer Sullivan's conduct that had gone unchecked for years. Complaints had been filed, but none had stuck. Reports had been written, but none had led to action, until now. Data analysts found that Sullivan had used force against minorities at a rate 4 times higher than his peers. But these weren't just numbers on a page. Each statistic represented someone's son, someone's brother, someone's friend. As news of the incident spread, something remarkable happened in Springfield. People began to speak up, not just about Officer Sullivan, but about their own experiences. The conversation was uncomfortable but necessary. 2 weeks after the incident, Chief Johnson made an unprecedented decision. He called a town hall meeting, but not as the police chief, as a father. With Marcus by his side, he shared something powerful. "Today I stand before you wearing two badges," he said. "One pinned to my chest and one carved into my heart. The first represents my duty to protect and serve everyone in this community. The second reminds me that no parent should have to teach their child how to survive an encounter with those who share my first badge." The impact was immediate and far-reaching. Other officers' children came forward with their own stories. Black officers spoke about serving in a system that still viewed their own children with suspicion. Within months, Springfield implemented one of the most comprehensive police reform programs in the country. Body camera footage would now be reviewed weekly, not just when complaints were filed. Implicit bias training became mandatory every quarter, not just once at the academy. But most importantly, the department began to change from the inside out. 1 year later, Springfield looks different, not just in policy but in practice. Officer Sullivan resigned from the force, but his story didn't end there. Today, he works with a police reform advocacy group, sharing his story with other officers across the country. His message is simple but powerful. Sometimes it takes seeing yourself in the wrong to truly understand what right looks like. As for Marcus Johnson, he's now a senior at Springfield High, still playing basketball, still walking home from practice. But these days, he walks with a different purpose. "What happened to me was terrible," Marcus told us in a recent interview, "but what came from it? That's something else entirely. Now, when police cars drive by, officers wave, not because I'm the chief's son, but because that's how it should be for everyone." Chief Johnson still leads the Springfield Police Department, but with a transformed approach. Under his leadership, civilian complaints have dropped by 60%. Use of force incidents are down 45%, but the numbers tell only part of the story. The real change can be seen in everyday moments. Officers coaching youth basketball teams, community meetings where people speak freely about their concerns, training sessions where new recruits learn not just how to enforce the law, but how to serve their community with empathy and understanding. Since implementing these changes, Springfield has become a model for other departments nationwide. 23 cities have adopted similar reforms. Over 300 officers have gone through their new training program. But most importantly, trust is being rebuilt, one interaction at a time. This story isn't just about what went wrong on one spring afternoon. It's about what can go right when we have the courage to face uncomfortable truths and the wisdom to learn from them. Change doesn't always come from grand gestures or sweeping reforms. Sometimes it comes from a single moment that forces us to see things differently, to see ourselves differently. What happened in Springfield isn't just a lesson for law enforcement. It's a lesson for all of us about power, responsibility, and the courage to stand up for what's right. How is your community building trust between law enforcement and citizens? Share your stories in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel for more in-depth looks at stories that matter, and visit our website to learn more about police reform initiatives in your area. Remember, change starts with awareness, but it only continues with action. What will you do to make a difference in your community?